The difference between a website on the internet and an application on your computer is that the application knows who you are and what actions you're taking, for the most part, like when you open up Photoshop and perform an edit on a photograph. Websites are very different in the sense that they simply serve up information from the server. It has no idea who you are, and it certainly doesn't know what actions you're taking. Giving websites the ability to remember who you are and what actions you've taken can be an incredibly powerful thing. And luckily, there's a simple way to do it. It's called a PHP session. Now, before I get into this, I know this is the MySQL section of the course, but this is immediately relevant to our MySQL learning process because we're going to be using PHP sessions a lot when it comes to us developing websites and incorporating databases and MySQL. So keep that in mind. Sessions are super global variables, much like get and post. And they can store information about a user and make it accessible across multiple pages. Things like a username, email address, whether a user is logged in, can be stored in a session. Session variables expire when the user closed the browser, thus ending the session, kind of like when you quit an application. So let's start our first PHP session. Create a new file called session.php. And I'm going to go ahead and add all that bootstrap stuff that we did. I'm just going to grab it from index.php, but they're all the same. And I'm just going to clear out a bunch of stuff here. I don't need the PHP script at the top of the page. And I'm going to change the title to PHP session. And then I'm going to change the level 1 heading to PHP session. And then I'm going to get rid of everything in here, the PHP script, and we should be good to go. So we have a basic structure here for a bootstrap outline. And that's just so that our examples here look nice. So to start our first PHP session, go to the very top of your page. Sessions always have to start at the very top of your page. It's the first thing that needs to happen. And to start a session, you simply call session_start function. That's a PHP function called session start. Now let's set some session variables. Let's say session username equals Brad Hussey. And let's create another one and let's call it session email. And we'll say brad@email.com. And then let's go ahead and echo session is active. So let's save that and why don't we check it out in our browser. Here we go. Session is active. So it let us know the session is active and there are some variables stored in the session super global variable. So let's create another page and start up the session again. So I'm going to create a new file here and say session2.php just so we can continue from there. I'm going to copy everything from the original session PHP page and I'm going to get rid of this stuff here, leave session start, and I'm just going to change this to say page 2. And same thing down here, just so you know where we are. Page 2. So we have session start. So now that we've started up the session again in a separate page, remember those variables that we created in our previous session.php page? They're now accessible via the session variable. This means we don't have to do any fancy or complicated code in order to pass those variables to this page. So this is how you retrieve those values. Let's go. Echo. Your username is... And I'm going to give a space, then concatenate the session variable, and I'm going to grab username. And then concatenate a break tag. I'm going to copy this and paste another echo. Your email is email. And I'm going to remove that break tag. We don't need it. And the string. There we go. So now let's check out session 2. Your username is Brad Hussey. Your email is brad@email.com. So this is the session active on session.php. And this is the session 2 page. Your username is Brad Hussey. Your email is brad@email.com. So what if you wanted to see all the variables you've added to your session? If you added more and you just wanted to have a little bit of an overview of what variables are stored in the session, you simply just run the print_r function and pass in the session as an argument. And then let's check it out. So it gives you an array here. Let me just give a break tag so you can see it better. There we go. Array, username, Brad Hussey, email, brad@email.com. So if you had a whole bunch of variables and you wanted to see what they were, what the key names were and what the values were, you could just print R and then the session. That will get you the all of the variables that are stored within the session. What if you wanted to change a value in a session variable? What if you just wanted to change it for some reason? And there are a lot of different reasons you could want to do that. This is how you would do it. You simply re-establish the variable, and let's just say username, and assign a new value, Jon Snow. So now, let's just save this and see what happens. So the username is now Jon Snow. And that's how you reassign new values to the variable. Now, even though your browser will usually end a PHP session when the user closes the browser, it's always a good idea to manually unassign all session variables and destroy the session for security reasons. So let's just test. Let's quit our browser here and see if it remembers our session variable. So I'm going to quit. Now I'm going to reopen that. And it looks like it doesn't remember. I'm on session2.php. If I were to go back, it's going to reestablish that session. Sorry, I can't go back. I'm going to have to go to session.php. Session is now active. Now if I were to go to session 2, there we go. It knows what's happening. And now if I refresh, it's probably going, there we go. It reset the value to Jon Snow. Because initially, it knew the session as Brad Hussey in the username session variable, and then we swapped it in session 2. So once we refreshed, it changed it to Jon Snow. So let's kill or destroy the variable session without having to quit the browser. And a common convention of doing this is to use a logout page. So what we need to do is add a logout link. Let's just add a tag, href, we'll say logout.php, logout of your session. So now we have, I'm just going to put in a paragraph tag there. So we have a logout of your session link here. And if I click this, it's not going to do anything because we don't have a logout page. So we need to create a logout.php page. And you can call it whatever you want really, but essentially we just need to unset and destroy the session in this page. So let's just go ahead and just add a PHP script here. I'm not going to add really any fancy HTML. So we need to clear all session variables. We do that like so, session_unset. That unsets all the variables that you've stored. And now we need to destroy the session. And that's session_destroy. That's a function. And then now simply echo, you've been logged out. See you next time. Okay, so let's save that and see what happens. I'm going to go to my browser here. The session is active. I'm going to go to session2.php. There we go. Username is Brad Hussey. If I refresh, it's going to reestablish or reassign the value, Jon Snow. Now, if I log out of my session, it's going to take me to logout.php, unset the values, and it's going to show me that there's nothing in there. And in fact, why don't we just prove that by saying print r and then underscore session. So save. And let's see, I'm going to put a break tag here. There we go. And let's see what happens. Log out of your session. You've been logged out. See you next time. And it's not displaying anything in the print R function because there's nothing in the session. And so that's how you would log out. So coming up, we'll create a real login form and start up a session using real data from our MySQL database that we created a little while back, just like a real web application. So hang tight.